Breaking the wall to participatory water management in South Africa. Jacqueline, Goldin. Diamonds on the soles of their feet, South Africa.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to bring this remote area in South Africa to a global stage. It's really exciting for me and for everyone back home who knows this is happening. So my project is about monitoring groundwater, that is well water, in very remote areas of South Africa, in a particularly the poorest province in South Africa, the Limpopo. Here, groundwater, the water under the ground, is increasingly important. It's hidden. We can't see it. But the 74% of people in this part of the world rely on groundwater for their crops and for their water supply. And just as a statistic, 30% of all the water on our planet is actually hidden water, is actually under the ground. Another thing in this area, apart from these dry cracks that you see, are the cracks and the divides left by these ghosts of apartheid. We have the discriminatory practices, where we have small-scale, black, poor farmers on one side, and we have rich, white, commercial farmers on the other. And these are really difficult, huge divides that we're trying to break down. Our volunteers are using very simple technology, dip meters to measure the groundwater in the wells, rain gauges to measure the rainfall, and they're taking photographs of the rivers when it rains and when it doesn't rain, and trying to understand more about what's happening under the ground. And it was really difficult for us to bring commercial farmers on board. We wanted to bring everyone who's using groundwater on board. They've been measuring water for maybe like 50 years, so they say to us, what's in it for us? We're just troublemakers. What are we doing here coming to ask them about data? And they didn't want to share their data. And then they saw that we were doing research on water and something that was important. So they said, okay, you can come onto our farms. You can train our farm laborers for us. So we had this win-win situation where the commercial farmers then gave us their data, and they wanted to use the data from the small-scale small-scale farmers and the volunteers. So you can't manage what you... Sorry, it's gone backwards. You can't manage what you can't measure. So we're really proud of our excellence in water data. We've got what we call Ngwena Zamadi. These are water champions. They're volunteers who are now so good at measuring water that they're actually training new people to measure water. So the first wall that we break down is this divide, this insidious divide between black and white, between rich and poor, between small scale and large scale. The second wall that we're breaking down is also this geographical divide, because the catchment, like the people in the top of the catchment who are maybe polluting or using pesticides, really didn't worry very much about what was happening at the bottom of the catchment. So we're breaking this geographical divide as well. But we mustn't only be sorry, I'm going backwards again. We mustn't only be interested in the data, because there's also the empowerment of people who are working for the betterment of their lives, and the feeling of belonging to a bigger catchment, so not just around their homes. The project's also resonating quite far, because just the simple act of measuring groundwater has raised the curiosity of the local chiefs and the king in this area, the king of Maleji, who are really interested for the first time, really curious about what's happening, what are these people doing? Let us learn more about water. And this is transferable for us, because this curiosity can go to other geographical areas nearby, and also to other domains like education, water quality, health. There's a tendency, this is a citizen science project, and there's a tendency in these citizen science projects to focus only on the hard data. We're interested in empowerment. So people are wanting to be scientists. They're wanting to share their data and break down these walls, be part of this breaking down the walls for us. So just quickly to recap. we're working in a very remote area. The distances are huge. I think it's about 3 times the size of Berlin, but because the roads are so bad, it takes you a really long time to get from one side to the other. So it's difficult to work. It's difficult to work from one well to another well in this area. And we're interested in data, but we're not just interested in data. That's not our only treasure. We're interested in what people carry in their hearts and in their heads. We're interested in dignity, in pride, in hope. And this is for us taking the laboratory taking science right out of the laboratory into life. And it's personally transformative. And these people who are gathering this data are really people with diamonds on the soles of their feet. Thank you.
Brilliant. Right on time. Perfect. So, thank you very much for another inspiring project. I think it's time now for questions from our jury and our audience. So, any questions to be raised? Come on, it's your opportunity now to interrogate our presenters. Any questions? Yes, we have a question here. Brilliant.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, you really explained you are not doing it because of the data, but of course you get the data. So what are you going to do with the data, and how can you help the communities also with the data?
Thank you. So the data is being captured on smartphones, and the smartphones are relayed to a website, and that data is made available to researchers, to policymakers, to government, and to the farmers themselves. So what's been really great is our volunteers have had this curiosity to know what are we measuring? So they've learned to read graphs, to read the sort of science, and they're curious. So there's kind of water literacy that is being gained. So the data is accessible on webs, and the volunteers and they're interacting. They're talking to each other on a WhatsApp a lot. There's a lot of kind of chatter and back and forth and kind of feeling of community, which is really great.
Well, that's a great answer. Yep. We have another question here from our jury.
Hi, a really interesting project. What I wasn't clear about, is this changing practice and behaviour? Is being involved in data gathering, making farmers rethink how they use land and water resources?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I mean, I think what's really important for us, I can't remember the statistics, but there are a lot of wells in Southern Africa and Africa as a whole that are vandalized. They're just really badly treated. I mean, you can Google and you see these horrible pictures of wells being vandalized. And I think there's a sense that people just don't understand the value of this underground water and also of not polluting it. So I think through this project, there's a lot of consciousness has been raised. I mean, every time we had a workshop, there are usually about like 90 people. We have 3 days, 30, 30, 30. So we're reaching a lot of people over the last 3-4 years. And so, yes, I think that there's really a sense of, you know, the critical resource and how important it is to protect it, and that they feel that they are responsible for protecting it. They are now custodians of something that's hidden and that's suddenly becoming visible.
Fabulous. So maybe we can have one last question. Yeah. We have another question from our jury.
Two quick questions. Have you expanded, or has your project been expanded to other regions? Because water is a worldwide problem in different places. So have others approached you for that? And have you thought of measuring something other than water, since you have all these people who are already volunteers and champions, like measuring air pollution or something like that? Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a great that's a great question. We do feel it's transferable. We feel like making this community of practice where people now are already communicating with each other and have a sense of belonging. It can be transferred to health or education. We haven't thought of air pollution, but that would be a wonderful, and definitely to water quality. So the next proposal we've put in, which we hope is going to be funded, is for water quality. So not just for water ground with levels, but for the actual quality. And yes, it is being transferred to the catchment right next to us, the sand catchment, and we hope beyond. We hope there's going to be a lot more curiosity. I think there already is. And I must just say thank you to Falling Walls, because it really is, you know, telling our dean of the faculty and telling people in our research that the social science, the anthropologists, the humanities are bringing something to the bigger science faculty, and I think that's really important. Thank you.
Fantastic. So, from the US to Chile to South Africa, this is a roller coaster here. But thank you, Jacqueline, for your amazing project. It is time now to move on to the next presenter.